before we started talking about Jaws, we were talking about AI, the problem with AI. And I'd mentioned that I guess Bob Costas, he had basically sold, I guess ABC the rights to use his voice for AI generated commentary for the Olympics.
Mm.
So they pay him a bunch of money. He records a few syllables here and there. AI just takes that and makes fresh new commentary for the Olympics, and he sets it home and has to do nothing. And I
Right.
think that's probably going to be we're probably going to see a lot more of that
Oh yeah, I think
in
so.
other mediums.
One of the talent agencies announced that they had licensed the rights to a bunch of famous actors and singers, some of them not no longer living, to use their voices, uh, possibly for the purpose of doing things like TV commercials, I don't know, but also to do like spoken word recordings. So you could
Right.
hear like a famous movie star who's deceased reading a novel to you,
Like an audiobook.
an audiobook, right? So they're already working on the licensing of these things. I hadn't heard about Bob Costas doing that. Surprised that he would have done it because I would have thought he would want to, he would be sort of against that.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, he's still alive. He's still capable of, I don't know, maybe he didn't want to travel to wherever the Olympics are, but
well, possibly
you could
that's
do it
it.
remotely over Zoom.
Well, he's an older man now, so
Yeah.
possibly he's getting to the point where he's considering what he's going to do after, what's going to happen after he's gone. And this might be an opportunity to ensure that he's always going to be a part of these things because they'll always have the ability to use this voice. I have to admit, I don't think the reaction is going to be very positive
No.
because there's nothing more uh, uh, ungodly or otherworldly or bizarre than hearing the voice of a dead person, right?
Yeah.
I'm not killing him off yet,
All right, yeah.
but eventually he'll be passed on, and I assume that the reason that he's doing this is in preparation for that day. And they are apparently already licensing the voices of other actors who have passed on. And I don't think that the people can like that, you know.
No. I don't remember who it was. It was a country singer, and I guess he had a stroke or something. He's no longer able to sing, but he wrote a new song, and they used the AI to make him sing this new song. And I'm like, that's
It's a
I mean,
little
it's
weird.
something he wanted to do, but I mean, it's like now they're gonna start doing that for, singers that have passed on, it's
Yeah, I mean, we also saw something similar when they released the Beatles song. They really just used the that software that Peter Jackson devised for Get Back to isolate and improve the demo track that John Lennon had recorded.
yeah,
And I have to admit, I thought it worked very well. His voice was strong and clear on that. The the thing that I guess people found objectionable was that the other artists were Paul and Ringo, and I guess George was also alive at the time. They recorded, this was back when they did that special. What was the special that they did? There was the Beatles anthology,
yeah,
and it was a bunch of CDs and a TV special. And they got together in the studio, the surviving folks, Ringo, George, and Paul, and they made an attempt to record their voices along with the track that it was had survived John. He had been killed by that point, and they felt that they weren't able to do it. The technology was not, it wasn't possible to do it at the time to make that demo track, which I guess was just something that John had recorded on a tape recorder, to make that workable, to make that usable. So time went on. George Harrison passed away. And now, all these years later, they finally had the ability to take John Lennon's track and make it presentable.
all
So
right.
now they're using voices of two dead people and they're mixing it together with two living people to create a new recording. So there's a lot of people that sort of felt queasy about that, and also the fact that it was being released as a Beatles track
Yeah,
when really technically officially it wasn't, right? It was something that John Lennon had worked on, and years later the other Beatles added their voices to it. So there's all sorts of things that people might find objectionable. The ultimate concern is that they're using people's voices in ways that the people themselves might have objected to.
All right. Yeah.
And I don't think that Peter Cushing would have ever said, please don't use my image in a Star Wars sequel. I think he would be perfectly fine with it,
Yeah.
especially if it meant money coming to his descendants, his family members. But I don't know how people would feel, somebody like John Lennon or George Harrison would feel about their voices being used years later by people who who knows who actually did that work. And for what purpose, really? Just put out another record that has the Beatles' name on it so somebody can make more money.
Yeah.
So, on the one hand, it was nice to hear, but on the other hand, I can see why some people are a little unsure about the direction we're heading in. Problem with AI, it seems to me, is that first of all, it's kind of a scam. A lot of the stuff that's being sold to us now as AI is not really AI. There's no intelligence involved.
Yeah.
It's machine learning. It's just ingesting a lot of stuff and then sort of putting out a pastiche of all the things that it's taken in. But there's no intelligence, there's no judgment involved. If there was intelligence at any level involved in this process, then you wouldn't have AI saying to people who are doing Google queries that they should eat rocks,
Yeah.
or anything silly like that. And there's a whole bunch of silly things that AI, when it goes crazy, can say. I had the experience fairly recently of using a platform that popped up that is supposed to be able to identify your location from photos. So in other words, if you're out walking around, you take a picture and you upload that to them, and they'll say, oh yes, that's this place.
Yeah.
And they'll actually show it to you on a map. So I went over to the Greenwood Cemetery, which is not far from my home, which is a historic cemetery and has a lot of interesting architecture in it. And I took some pictures and I uploaded one to this site. And it immediately identified me as being in Scotland. And the reason I understand everybody makes mistakes, and it's a
Yeah.
tough thing to be able to tell from one photo, to get that. So I understand it's difficult. But the funny thing is, in the alternates, because it says you're in Scotland, and then here's some other places that you might be. So in
Right.
other words, it's saying if you got that wrong, then we'll take another try. The second try, they got it right. Here's the question I have. If it's intelligent, it knows where I'm sending the photo from.
Yeah.
It knows I'm sending the photo from a computer that's located 2 blocks away from the Greenwood Cemetery. So a person would say, well, you know, probably if we already have identified this as possibly being the Greenwood Cemetery, and we're seeing it's being uploaded by somebody who's 2 fucking blocks away from Greenwood Cemetery, it probably is Greenwood Cemetery. And instead it says, oh no, it's Scotland.
Yeah.
That's not a sign of intelligence. That's a
Nah.
sign of some sort of computer system that is just taking in information and taking in images and spitting things out in response to queries. And very often it gets the information wrong, or it gets the information
Yeah.
ordered in the wrong way, right? That should have been the first choice. Because it isn't intelligent, it doesn't make those sort of deductions, right? And you see that all the time where things are obviously wrong, and yet the thing isn't smart enough to recognize it. Only a person can make those sort of connections and make
Right.
that
Yeah.
sort of judgment call. So we're being lied to in a way. First, they told us that AI was going to destroy the world. And then they said, oh, look, we're going to put it in every program that you
Yeah.
use, right? Isn't that great? So they get us to respect the thing as potentially dangerous, obviously powerful, and then they put it in everything. I guess the only thing we don't have it in now is our microwaves and our toasters.
Right. That's
Uh,
coming though.
that's coming for sure, yes. And as far as I can see, it's largely useless. If you tried it when we first started to see these things like Chat GBT came out, and you tried creating things with it, text, or there are a couple others, other sites where you could create images. And I tried that. And a friend of mine who's an author, he did a detective story, and he wanted a piece of art that was like an old pulp magazine detective
Right.
story. So I put in a query, saying what the detective should look like, and the girl that's with him, what she should look like, and the alleyway that they should be in, and all that sort of thing. And it came back with some, gives you like two or three examples of,
Yeah.
and one of them was, close enough to the mark, but it got all the language wrong, all the text was wrong.
Yeah, that's what I've always run into.
Right.
It can't get text
Can't
right.
absolutely meaningless text. And it got other strange things wrong, like the detective was cross-eyed.
Yeah, or they have too many fingers
Too
or
many figures. The hands were like hooves.
yeah.
So I had to spend several hours photoshopping, taking elements from the web and photoshopping it in, like the gun for some reason. And that might be a safety
Yeah.
precaution. They don't allow you to put guns and knives into because they don't want to be producing violent images. So all the gun in the detective's hand, which looked like a noodle or a fire hose or something, that had to be replaced. So if it was intelligent, it would look at this image and it would say, "Oh no, obviously
Yeah.
the detective doesn't can't be cross-eyed. He can't be holding a noodle." But it doesn't do that because it's not intelligent. It's just taking a bunch of stuff that's been fed into it and spitting it back out when it gets the right order. And also, apparently, you can't create like there was a big fuss about the fact that somebody managed to make a couple of 30-second videos of a woman walking down the street or an astronaut on Mars or whatever
Yeah.
the scenarios, puppies playing. So look at this, isn't this great? Say, yeah, but why are there all these mistakes? Why are all the puppies seem to be melding, and why do some of
Mhm.
them seem to have two extra legs or whatever the problem was? And the answer is I mean, these are big companies. They have many, many millions of dollars that are being put into them by venture capitalists and whatever. You would think they'd say, we can't release this because it's not quite perfect. Why
Right,
don't we
yeah.
release something perfect? And the answer is because they can't perfect the
Yeah.
video. It's one go, right? You put in the query and it produces something. And if you say, oh no, this detail is wrong, you have to change that, it gives you a whole different video
Oh, but yeah.
and a whole bit different video that will have different mistakes in it. Now, I'm sure over time this will be improved, but this is the promise we've been hearing now for quite some while, right? Oh, it's going to get better, right? Along with the self-driving cars, right? It's going to get better. We've been listening to this stuff for a long time. Big data was supposed to be the thing that was going to revolutionize everything. It's going to
Yeah.
make everything possible. Just collecting enough data and having the ability to sift through it was going to just change every industry, right? Change our lives. Well, it seems to me that most of the businesses, the startups that relied on that promise, they're pretty much defunct now, right?
Yeah.
Or they're on the verge of being defunct. And all the companies that are actually producing something of real value, they're all doing very well, including, I guess we'd have to admit, social media. The social media immediately rushed in and said, AI, AI, we got AI.
Yeah.
And Google did as well. But now I see reports that Google is giving you the AI response less
Well, yeah.
now. And there were some interesting stories that we heard.
I think I've seen where I think it's Adobe again,
Yes.
where if you use their AI to create something, they own the rights to it. You don't own
Well,
the rights to that.
even worse than that, uh, they said, and they tried to sneak this past people by putting in a update to their user agreement
User agreement,
that
yeah.
you had to agree to in order to continue to use the software. So some people paying $50 to $100 a month to use their suite, and they got this message when they tried to open up Photoshop that unless you agree to these new terms, you would not be able to open up Photoshop.
Yeah.
And the new terms included everything you upload to us is now ours to
Ours, yeah.
use as we see fit.
And I guess it
Now,
was and it was like they were making it really difficult to cancel your subscription
well,
also.
that's always been a problem. Matter of fact, I think
Yeah.
the government is going after them now for
Yeah.
that. The Justice Department is whatever agency has filed suit against them. But the real problem, it's always there's an insidiousness to all of this. And people thought, well, I upload this beautiful picture, and then Adobe's going to use it to, for advertising or for some
Right.
purpose that I don't. That's not really what they were doing. They wanted to take, of course, Adobe has stock photos, right?
Yeah.
Right. They have to pay the photographers and the artists whose stuff that they use in their stock photo department. So they came up with a brilliant idea. They said, we got all these people who are using Adobe Photoshop. Why don't we make it so that those people, every time they use the cloud, which is part of what you're buying when you subscribe to them, yeah, this cloud to store your stuff in. Every piece of art that you upload to the cloud is ours to use as we please.
Yeah.
And the first thing we'll do is use that art to train our AI systems to produce art that will look pretty close to that we can use in Adobe stock images,
Yeah.
right? And then we don't have to pay you anymore. We use your art to train our AI, and then we replace your art on our stock photo platform, and you don't get paid anymore for your artwork there. And the value has been taken, has been extracted from your art, and we own that now.
Yeah.
So that stinks. And of course, there was a tremendous uproar, and they had to backtrack and change again.
Yeah.
This is becoming a common thing now with these companies that try to do something fishy, and then there's a tremendous, outrage expressed, and they have to backtrack and say, "Oh, well, that's
Yeah.
not really what we meant."
Yeah. Yeah, I see all these people on Facebook using it to, what would I look like as a 1940s actor? And it gives them and I'm thinking eventually these photos that they're creating are going to end up in an ad somewhere.
Right.
It's going to be, there you are. They're using you to sell this product and you didn't agree to it, but you kind of did when you used that program to generate your profile picture.
Yeah, part of the problem is that they have everything on their side.
Yeah.
We're living in an age. I mean, it used to be if you had an interaction with a company that required a contract, you would have a paper contract.
Oh, yeah.
And the company would not be able to change the terms of the contract unless they contacted you and renegotiated the terms. They could end it if it was within the period, if the term of the contract had ended, if it was like a contract for 5 years and the 5 years were over, then they could say, we're not renewing anymore.
Yeah.
But they couldn't, in the middle of the contract's term, say, oh, by the way, we decided to change the terms of the contract. Here's the new rules, right? And we see this all the time now. It seems like every week you get updated terms of service from Google or from
Yeah.
Facebook or from whatever other 1,000 companies that were there. And now, of course, nobody bothers to go through all these things, but there's almost certainly things in it that you wouldn't agree to if you read it, right?
Yeah.
And the original contract, the original agreement that you had, the agreement you thought you had, has now vanished. It's no longer on the internet. So unless you were wise enough to save the original contract,
Right.
the original agreement, then you're arguing with air. I had this happen with one of the companies that's distributing my film. It was a online platform. And when they started, they had an interface where the terms were all clearly stated. And I agreed to that, and I uploaded my movie to them, and they started to sell it. And then they ran into some trouble. And there was a period where they looked like they were going to go out of business, but then some new investment money came in and new people took over. One of the first things they did was to change the agreement. So when their website came back up after being off for a while, you found that everything you agreed to in the past was gone. There was no way to recover them, no way to retrieve that. And if you spoke to somebody at the company and you said, wait a minute, we didn't agree to this. This isn't part of our agreement. They would say, what agreement? We don't have an agreement. What are you talking about? And in a sense, they're right. I don't have a paper agreement, a contract that
Yeah.
I can hold up. And they devised it that way. They made it so that you will never have any way to prove what the original arrangement or agreement was. It's all on their website, and they can change it as they please.
Right.
And the only option you have, and this is true of all these platforms, including Google and Facebook, etc., if you don't agree, you don't use the service anymore. That's it. And because there's this impression that they give, like YouTube and Google generally, that everything we're doing is for free,
Yeah.
then you don't feel like you have any ground to stand on. How can I disagree when they change their terms when they're giving me the service for free, right? But they're not giving it to us for free, right? They're serving advertisements to us, and we're
Yeah.
watching, and they're making money because we watch the stuff that they put up and the advertisements along with it. So it isn't really truly free. And certainly if you're a person who's uploading stuff to YouTube or to this company that I was discussing, uh, you are giving them something of value, and it's being done with the expectation that they'll do certain things in return. So they don't really have the right to just say, oh, by the way, there's new rules, we're changing everything,
Yeah.
and hey, here's how it's going to be done going forward. Forget about what happened in the past, and you won't be able to find that anymore because we've taken it off our website. Here's the way the rules are going to go now. But that's really the situation that we've gotten ourselves into. There's no permanence to anything now, right? Companies can change anytime they want, they can change the rules. I saw that also with Amazon. I actually I'm not as critical of Amazon as some people because I think the reason why it's so popular is because they actually provide a pretty valuable service, right?
Oh yeah.
You can order whatever you want, food or whatever, and it gets delivered to your home possibly the next day if you want it. But as far as a filmmaker is concerned, you upload your film to them and they're presenting it on Prime, and then they decide that they don't really want to be paying you as much for your film for time viewed by
Yeah.
people. So they just changed the rules. And now we're giving you, an even smaller fraction of a penny for every hour that's viewed. And there's really no way to argue with them. It's not like you don't have the power to negotiate.
Yeah.
You accept it or you take your film down from there. So, and I think Adobe, that was the other problem is that uh, apparently they don't make a point of it, but when you start your subscription, you're agreeing that if you quit early, you're going to have to pay a pretty substantial
Like a cancellation
penalty,
fee.
right?
Yeah.
So that's probably something people don't know until they actually try to
How to
quit
cancel,
Adobe,
yeah.
right? So yeah, there's a lot of, and it's
Hmm.
unfortunate in a way. I think you see this right across the board. It's because these companies are publicly traded, most of them,
Right.
and they have a desperate need to show that they're constantly growing, gaining more market share, and increasing profits. And so we see things like Facebook and YouTube, which used to have some standards as to what types of advertising they would present to people. And now apparently there's no standards at all. They'll let anybody advertise, right?
Yeah.
All these sort of shitty websites that are like Kooky News or whatever, that show you usually completely false information about somebody. Oh, this beloved actor just died, and then
Yeah.
turns out to be a complete fraud. And they intersperse that with stuff like, fixing toenail fungus or stuff like that.
Yeah.
All those photos that are supposedly humiliating photos of women that accidentally reveal themselves,
All right.
she couldn't understand why everybody's
Yeah.
looking at her. And they'll have some picture with somebody with their breasts sticking out tomorrow. And that sort of trashy shit used to be all below, below the head, below the, like on CNN, it would be down at the
Yeah.
bottom of the page. And it was always like, tabula and
Yeah.
outbrain, and it was chum, speaking, we were just talking about Jaws, but that's what it was. It was this sort of horrible garbage, this rotting shit that would attract, you know,
Yeah.
attention. People would click on it just because they couldn't believe how tasteless it was, right? They couldn't help but say, well, what could that possibly be? I have to click on that. And they made a very nice living. Now Facebook is doing that all over the place, right?
Oh yeah.
And they won't let you necessarily block those companies, right? But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't if you try to
Yeah,
block.
I think I find that the more I tell Facebook, hey, I don't want to see this anymore, the more it shows me.
Yes, because you're interacting with it by trying to
Yeah.
shut it right. That does seem to be. And I remember when Facebook first started allowing people to advertise, and I think I might have told you the story before, but we were just getting ready around that time to do the 10th anniversary edition of Sleepless Nights, my film. And we wanted to do Facebook advertising for it. So I picked a nice picture of Jacqueline, our leading lady, her face with her eyes closed as she's being bitten on the neck, but you don't see anything. You just see her face with her eyes closed.
Yeah.
And Facebook rejected the ad. They said it was too suggestive. And now I get ads for stuff that you can use to shave your balls.
Yeah.
right? Or underwear ads and things like that, or
Yeah.
bizarrely ads for senior citizen bras.
Yeah.
So they have a picture of some senior lady with her wearing a bra. Say, why would you think I want to see this? You know, and is this really the sort of trashy shit that you think is going to attract people to your platform? More people are going to be looking at Facebook because they get the chance to see old ladies in their
Yeah.
bra or some guy talking about shaving his balls. I don't think so. And I think what they're doing is they're getting the money in the short term, right? But in the long term, it just means they're destroying the platform. Fewer and
Yeah.
fewer people are going to
Right.
spend any amount of time on it.
Oh yeah.
And we haven't even talked about the worst thing that happened over the weekend. I didn't think that it would be possible for me to get so upset about Shannon Doherty dying.
Yeah, I know.
And
So
the
many.
and
There
the
were
kid
so
from
many.
Al.
Yeah.
Yes.
The kid from Al. Richard Simmons.
And Richard
That
Simmons,
was over
yes.
the weekend.
I was beside me. I think it's a major event in the history of our country.
Yeah. And then I think Dr. Ruth. That was another
And
one.
Dr. Ruth, yes.
Yeah, it was a sad weekend.
Well, I was particularly sad for them because they made the mistake of dying just before we had an unfortunate public event.
Yeah, I know.
I won't say what because I don't want
Yeah.
the video to be
Yeah.
hidden.
Demonetized. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's not that we are monetized.
Yeah.
We should make that point
Yeah.
that for anybody who's watching this, we've never made any effort to monetize our channel. We do this for our own pleasure and for our mental health.
That's right.
Right? Because Gary is unable to find anybody to talk to, and I'm in the same position.
Yes.
Two people that nobody else will talk to.
Right. Yeah.
And rather than going out and committing some horrible crime, we come on here and talk about movies.
Talk about movies. Yeah.
So that's we'll save the horrible crimes for some other time
We can
when
do
we
that.
run out
Yeah.
of movies.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess it's just about that time to get off here and go lay down,
All
try
right.
to get some
Well,
sleep.
that's right. You're working early tomorrow, right?
No, I don't work tomorrow, but
Oh, okay.
just I'm still on that schedule of, getting up early. So
Probably good to stay on the schedule, right?
yeah, I got up early
Yeah.
this morning, so it's kind of wearing me down a little bit now. So
Everything's good at the house.
well, yeah, everything's good. Still got to get some AC in here.
Oh, that's a good. Yeah, you probably should
Yeah,
get that. Yeah.
yeah, because it's definitely been a hot couple of weeks here. I don't know
And we
how it's
have,
been up there, but
yeah, it's been pretty bad. And it looks, I mean, we got all of August to go through
yeah, I
still.
know.
Yeah. So I'm
Yeah,
going to be paying a lot in electricity bills,
probably, yeah.
but
But yeah,
I'm now a little better off financially. So I'm not sweating. Well, I'm sweating,
yeah,
but I'm not worrying about the electricity
yeah,
bills so much.
yeah. So as get some AC up here, I'll be doing a lot better.
That'll be great. Well,
Oh yeah,
I actually sent somebody chocolates. I have an old friend, and she had loaned me some money some years ago. And now that I'm in a better financial position, I said to her, "What can I do?" You know, she's a very religious person, and she
right.
doesn't like to do anything for money or anything like that. So what can I do to show my gratitude? She says, "Well, there's expensive Godiva chocolate that I like. It's like $50 a box. You can send that to me. That would be a nice gift." So I did. It takes like 5 days, 6 days to get to it, which surprised
Yeah,
me. And just before it was supposed to arrive today, I thought to myself, gee, it's like 90 degrees today.
yeah,
Wonder if they have refrigerated trucks. So she texts me, I just got it. I'm heading home. Well, she gets home, she opens it, and it's soup.
yeah,
So now I have to contact Amazon and get a refund for the almost $60 that we spent for,
yeah.
a couple of little chocolates in a box. So, was I saying nice things about Amazon? I take it
Yeah,
back.
I believe I'll be for
All
you.
right, sir. Get to bed. Have a
Yep.
good night. I'll see you again soon, I'm
All
sure.
right. Yep. We'll do this again sometime soon.
Take care.